AEW World Champion MJF is attacked backstage before he can have a match alongside Samoa Joe against the Devil's Mystery Assailants. But who was he attacked by? Was it a former AEW World Champion or was it by the Devil himself? Plenty of details on that. Plus, Christian Cage is still the AEW TNT Champion after defeating Adam Copeland last night on Dynamite, thanks to help from Nick Wayne's mother, Shayna Wayne. Details on her shocking heel turn. Kyle O'Reilly reportedly has been backstage recently. We've got plenty of details on his recovery. The Von Erichs are coming to AEW next week, as well as the Iron Claw film is coming to Max. We'll let you know about that. Now, the Continental Classic matches took place last night, so I've got all of the details, all of the standings, as 2 stars are eliminated and more matches have been announced. Rhea makes her return to AEW television last night, confronting timeless Toni Storm. Roderick Strong is now out of his wheelchair. Vince McMahon, does he have any plans to leave WWE? We'll let you know if he does. We got the ratings for NXT, plus several matches have been announced for this Saturday's edition of AEW Collision, plus AEW announces a brand new Canadian tour. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about MJF being attacked backstage, but was it by the Devil? Now, AEW World Champion MJF was attacked backstage on last night's AEW Dynamite, forcing him to be unable to compete in a previously advertised tag team match. Now, there was a backstage exchange of words between Hangman Adam Page and MJF earlier on in the evening, and later on it resulted in MJF being attacked, but the question is, was it Hangman Page who did it? Now, MJF and Samoa Joe were set to team together against 2 of the Devil's masked men, but that match would never come to be because Samoa Joe wouldn't be joined by his tag team partner. In fact, he was surrounded by the Devil's Mystery Assailants, but it was then later revealed that MJF had been attacked backstage. Let's get a closer look at first the backstage interaction between MJF and Hangman Page, and possibly how that influenced what happens later on in the show.
You know what I think, actually?
Yeah, I want to know what you think.
I think out of everybody in this locker room, if there's one guy I think you're the Devil, man.
The Devil, the mask, the mask guy. You think I'm running around in a Party City mask attacking? No. Honestly, Max, I have known you for a long time, and for as long as I have known you, you have been a manipulator, Max. If we want to be honest, just be honest with me, Max. It's probably just you, right?
Samoa Joe surrounded on all 4 sides.
Now, as you can see right now, this is when Samoa Joe was surrounded. The ring was surrounded by the Devil's minions, seemingly. The lights, though, went out, and then you would actually notice very quickly that Samoa Joe, he was actually surrounded no more because all of the Devil's Mystery Assailants had suddenly vanished, with Samoa Joe now actually being just again alone in the ring. But then very quickly Samoa Joe was then pointed out to the fact that you can see the Devil up on the screen right there. I guess a signal may be that it was maybe him, we don't know, but MJF was seen laying backstage as Samoa Joe then had to go and rescue his tag team partner and his future AEW World Championship opponent at AEW World's End. Now, interestingly, in the earlier exchange, it was MJF who accused Hangman Page of being the Devil, with Samoa Joe interrupting them before the tense exchange could turn physical. By the end of the show, there was no official update provided on MJF's status. Now, as far as maybe why they did this angle in terms of backstage news, MJF did suffer a legitimate injury during his match against Jay White at Full Gear a couple of weeks ago. He is set to face Samoa Joe at World's End on December 30. It had been reported that MJF feels that he can get through these matches via smoke and mirror matches, essentially is what he said. And maybe that's what we saw last night with a lot of smoke and mirrors as opposed to actually doing the match. What are your thoughts on this angle? What are your thoughts on who was the person that took out MJF? Of course, as you can see, there is a beer bottle seemingly smashed over his head, which would maybe be an indicator of Hangman Page being the person who is the perpetrator behind the attack. Who do you think it is? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Now, Christian Cage is still the AEW TNT champion. The moment Adam Copeland, of course, signed with AEW, a match between him and Christian Cage was no longer a matter of if, but when. And after months of feuding, the 2 former partners battled it out for the AEW TNT championship on Wednesday's episode of Dynamite. Their battle, however, while incredibly personal, did not conclude without outside interference. We can actually take a look at this as well. As you can see right here, Christian Cage, he was joined in the ring by Shayna Way, obtaining the AEW TNT Championship in the process. After the match as well, Christian Cage stomped on the back of the neck of Adam Copeland as well, seemingly trying to make good on his promise to break his neck of his former best friend. Now, whether or not Shayna Wade has joined Christian Cage's stable to patriarchy remains to be seen. We'll have to wait and see indeed if she has any explanation on the attack and on the heel turn that she did on Adam Copeland last night. What were your thoughts on the match? What are your thoughts on the heel turn? And what are your thoughts on where AEW goes from here? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Now, a bit of a positive update on Kyle O'Reilly and his AEW status. Now, Kyle O'Reilly has been out of action for 18 months with no sign of a return on screen within All Elite Wrestling. And now, unfortunately, the updates in the summer that Fightful had heard were not good. Sources had indicated to Fightful previously that O'Reilly was not factored into AEW plans due to his injury, and there was currently no timetable for him to return. Now, some positive news here, because at least one part of that has changed. Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp is reporting that Kyle O'Reilly has been backstage recently and is looking like he could return to programming after a period of it looking quite unlikely. O'Reilly underwent neck fusion surgery in September 2022, but unfortunately experienced a post-surgical issue in the months that followed. He's been working out with a strength and conditioning specialist for months. Unfortunately, there's been quite a big influx of fusion surgeries in wrestling, with O'Reilly, Braun Strowman, Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, and also Eric of the Viking Raiders, all having to undergo a similar procedure. But certainly good news when it comes to O'Reilly. If we get any more indication as to what it could mean for him coming back creatively, we'll let you know, but as of recently, he has been backstage. Now, the Von Erichs are coming to AEW next week on the special Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite, but we should preface this by saying it could be tied in to the recent biographic film released about the family, because between the commercial and critical failure of The Flash to the exact opposite of the highly lauded billion-dollar earning Barbie, it's been a turbulent year, certainly for Warner Bros. Discovery when it comes to cinematic releases. Now the company's streaming platform Max will be getting a boost of prestige with the addition of the A24 library next year, which means that Max will be the streaming platform for the upcoming biopic about the infamous Von Erich family, The Iron Claw. Variety is reporting that WBD and A24 have struck a deal that will see Max become the exclusive streaming platform of A24 films after their theatrical releases, as well as the addition of past A24 films to the Max library. A24 had previously been streaming its films on Showtime and Paramount Plus. The news comes just months after A24 secured the Best Picture award at this year's Academy Awards for the Daniels-helmed film Everything Everywhere All at Once, and is currently enjoying critical success for releases such as Sofia Coppola's Priscilla and Celine Song's Past Lives. As for The Iron Claw, of course, it tells the story of world-class championship wrestling promoter Fritz Von Erich and his sons Kevin, Kerry, and David, and the tragedy that befell the family. The film was executive produced by AEW World Champion MJF, who also plays the fake Von Erich brother Lance Von Erich in the film as well. Now, WWE executive and Texas wrestling mainstay Bruce Pritchard said the film proved his skepticism wrong, praising many of the performances as well as the work by director Sean Durkin as well. So you might be saying, well, Owen, why are you bringing this up? Well, it looks like because the Iron Claw is set to land on Max, now it looks like the Von Erichs, of course, the featured family within the film, looks to be coming to AEW, which of course also airs on WBD stations TNT and TBS. The announcement was made last night on Dynamite that the Von Erich family is heading to next week's Dynamite. It was announced on Wednesday that Kevin, Ross, and Marshall Von Erich will appear on next week's Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite in Arlington, Texas, which is in the Dallas area. Their appearance comes ahead of the upcoming release of the Iron Claw movie, which arrives in theaters on December 22. Now, as mentioned, we go into all of the details of the film, but you can watch the film and you can watch all of the various documentaries on World Class Championship Wrestling. When it comes to Ross and Marshall Von Erich, Kevin's sons entered professional wrestling in 2012. They have wrestled for Pro Wrestling Noah, Impact Wrestling, and MLW. They appeared at last year's Ric Flair's last match event, where they lost to Mark and Jay Briscoe. Whether or not this leads to anything more long-term with AEW, we'll have to wait and see. But would you like to see that? And would you like to see more integration with the Iron Claw in AEW? Is there a possibility we could get Zac Efron or one of the members of the cast wrestling a match, possibly against MJF? Is that possible for the future? Would that be good for AEW? Let me know if you'd like to see that. Now let's get into the Continental Classic because, of course, last night once again was several more matches in the tournament. The AEW Continental Classic continued on Wednesday, and Jon Moxley and Swerve Strickland currently dominate the Gold League as both men remain undefeated throughout 3 rounds of competition. Now, the first match on AEW Dynamite last night saw Jon Moxley face off against Rush. He actually choked out Rush in the opening contest on AEW Dynamite, bringing him to 9 points and putting Rush in a rocky position as the star stands at only 3 points and very few matches to make up the difference. Now, when it comes to the next match of the evening, we saw Swerve Strickland continue his dominance as well within the Gold League. He defeated Mark Briscoe in a blistering contest, also bringing Strickland to 9 points, and also, I guess more importantly, mathematically eliminating Briscoe from the tournament as well, as Briscoe remains winless in the Gold League. In the final match in the Gold League last night, we saw Switchblade Jay White get back into winning form. Switchblade Jay White managed to stay alive, defeating Jay Lethal to earn his second victory in the tournament. Like Briscoe, Lethal is now mathematically eliminated from the tournament as well. So certainly, again, several big matches on the show. We can now go to the standings for the Gold League as things stands. There has been some weird criticism about people not understanding it, which is kind of wild to me. Nevertheless, as you can see right now, Jon Moxley has 9 points after victories against Rush, Briscoe, and Lethal. Also, Swerve Strickland currently sits at 9 points for victories over Briscoe, Lethal, and Jay White. Rush currently sits at 3 points with his sole victory coming up against Mark Briscoe, but unfortunately for him, defeats against Moxley and Jay White, leaving him in a precarious position. Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal, respectively, have both been eliminated mathematically. Briscoe has losses against Moxley, Strickland, and Rush, whereas Lethal has defeats against Moxley, Strickland, as well as Jay White. Switchblade Jay White currently sits on 6 points after his victories against Jay Lethal, Rush, but also does have that sole defeat against Swerve Strickland as well. Now, when it comes to more matches being announced for the AEW Continental Classic, one match is going to be taking place Friday night on AEW Rampage. A Continental Classic Blue League match is set for the Friday, December 8th episode of AEW Rampage on TNT. AEW revealed during Wednesday's Dynamite that Bryan Danielson versus Daniel Garcia in a Blue League bout is set for this Friday's Rampage show. Now, Danielson and Andrade El Idolo had their first tournament bouts a week later than the rest of the Blue League field, and it was pushed as Danielson having 2 matches within 24 hours as he's set to take on Andrade on Saturday's episode of Collision 2. 2 more matches plus a promo segment have been announced for Rampage. In addition to that, Abaddon will face Trish Adora in singles competition, while Powerhouse Hobbs and Konosuke Takeshita of the Don Callis family will face Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal in a tag team bout as well. Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, a segment for them, has also been revealed for the show too. But when we continue talking about the Continental Classic, as I mentioned, matches have been announced for AEW Collision this weekend. Bryan Danielson versus Andrade El Idolo is going to be taking place. As we spoke about, it's being framed that Danielson will be competing in 2 Continental Classic matches 24 hours apart. Of course, it was actually against Andrade El Idolo, not in storyline, but in reality, that he suffered his broken orbital bone. In addition to that, this coming weekend, we'll be getting Claudio Castagnoli versus Eddie Kingston, of course, 2 rivals, long-time rivals, and Eddie Kingston, of course, the one who defeated Castagnoli to win the Ring of Honor World Championship, a title that is on the line in this tournament at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite earlier this year. Finally, next week, it has been announced that the 2 leaders of the Gold League will be facing off. 2 more Gold League matches are set for next week's AEW Winter is Coming special edition of Dynamite. Jon Moxley will face Swerve Strickland in a Gold League match. The 2 are currently at the top of the league with 3 wins and no losses apiece. Strickland confronted Moxley on Dynamite following their wins, taunting him by saying he'd do whatever it takes to win. Moxley said he'd do the same thing next week. Another Gold League match will have Rush take on Jay Lethal. Hangman Page will make his return next week, taking on Roderick Strong. Page, as I mentioned, confronted MJF and is, I guess, part of the sort of suspicion for the person who attacked MJF backstage. But what are your thoughts on the Continental Classic? Where do you think the Gold League is going? Who do you think is going to win the Gold League? Is it going to be Swerve Strickland, or is it going to be Jon Moxley? Or could we see a late push from someone like Switchblade Jay White as well? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Riho is back on AEW television, confronting Timeless Tony Storm. The inaugural AEW Women's World Champion has returned, and she has her sights set on the current champion, Toni Storm. Rhea came back to AEW after an intense battle between timeless Toni Storm and Sky Blue on the December 6th episode of Dynamite. After reversing Blue's counter to Storm's era and rolling Blue up for the victory, Storm's celebration was cut short by the returning Rhea, who would enter the ring for a standoff against the champion. Storm attempted to instigate a brawl with Rhea, but after a smooth dodge, Rhea dropkicked Storm to the apron. She revved up for another attack to send Storm over the apron, but Storm ultimately escaped the encounter thanks to her butler, Luther. Rhea's choice to confront Storm is no accident. The two have a tense past with each other, including, but not limited to, Storm's former stable, the Outcast, humiliating Rhea by spray painting an L on her body, not once, but twice. Rhea is also no stranger to championship gold. She held the AEW Women's World Championship for 133 days after defeating Nyla Rose in the inaugural title match on October 2nd, 2019. While she would ultimately lose the title to Rose, Rhea would continue to be a mainstay of the AEW Women's Division, but she hasn't competed in a televised AEW match since April. Now Rhea is back, and a championship match with Storm appears to be brewing and could be on the horizon very quickly. Now, we spoke about Roderick Strong earlier. He is now free of his injury and free of his wheelchair. After having a period of immobility, Roderick Strong has officially gotten rid of his wheelchair and shown off his impressive recovery. In an interview segment on last night's December 6th episode of Dynamite, Roderick Strong rolled out in his wheelchair, which he has been using as part of a comedy storyline after a neck injury, alongside Matt Taven and Mike Bennett from the Kingdom to address the Montreal crowd. While Strong started to discuss his hardships from still being wheelchair bound, he would then shock the Kingdom and the crowd with a miraculous recovery. Roderick Strong stood up, shoving the wheelchair away, as he vowed to be done with the chair also, and done with the consequences for his behaviour. Strong pledged to continue to prove that MJF was not to be trusted, as he believes that MJF is the devil and that Samoa Joe also needs to be saved from Max. So Roderick Strong and the Kingdom seemingly have a part to play in this devil storyline as well. Now let's talk about Vince McMahon and his future with WWE and TKO 2. Now, an update has been provided on the WWE Executive Chairman, or shall I rather say TKO Executive Chairman of the board, Vince McMahon. Now, on September 12, Endeavor announced that WWE and UFC had completed their merger to become a new sports and entertainment company, TKO Group Holdings. Following this announcement, Vince McMahon was reportedly pushed out of the WWE creative process, with Paul Triple H Levesque being put in charge of all of the company's creative. McMahon then made headlines when it was revealed that he was selling $700 million in TKO stock about a month ago. Per Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated, sources within WWE shared that Vince McMahon has no intentions to leave the company. In regards to the TKO stock he sold, the report notes that McMahon needed to have the money liquid, which is why he sold such a large amount of stock. Multiple sources have also indicated that McMahon also has no plans to stop working for the company despite his role being shifted from creative. Although this change has occurred, there is no doubt that McMahon still wields great power within the company, according to the report. The report also notes that the focus for McMahon is handling items that are assigned to him by Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel. There was no confirmation on any assignments that McMahon is currently working on within the promotion at this time. However, it must be stressed and also pointed out that Dana White has recently suggested that UFC's recent deal with Saudi Arabia was really all orchestrated and facilitated by Vince McMahon, and it could be these bigger picture projects that McMahon is working on for TKO, and not just WWE but also UFC as well. Now let's talk about the ratings for NXT this past Tuesday on USA Network. And after an incredible run of viewership during the full months, which seemingly helped secure the brand new television deal with the CW network, ratings for NXT have taken a downturn over the last few weeks, and the song seems to have remained the same for this past Tuesday night's episode. Though there were some positives to actually take out the numbers, which we'll get to shortly. WrestleNomics reports that Tuesday's NXT episode drew 620,000 total viewers, as well as a 0.19 in the all-too-important 18 to 49 demographic. This continued the recent downturn for NXT in total viewership, with the number down 5% from last week's 659,000. Now, in some good news, the 18 to 49 demo was up, with this week rising 6% from last week's 0.18. While NXT didn't face any NFL or college football competition on Tuesday, unlike Raw and Collision the days before, the show did go against quarterfinal matchups in the NBA in-season tournament, including the Milwaukee Bucks versus New York Knicks. Nevertheless, number is another disappointing sign that NXT has lost some steam. with Tuesday's total viewership number serving as the lowest NXT that it has drawn since September, surpassing the 622,000 mark of 2 weeks ago. Tuesday's NXT served as the go-home edition for the upcoming NXT Deadline Premium Live event this weekend and saw Tyler Bate and Fallon Henley win the final spots of the men's and women's Iron Survivor Challenge matches. Another notable development, Dragon Lee replaced Wes Lee as Dominic Mysterio's challenger for the NXT North American Championship this Saturday, with Wes Lee forced to step aside due to injury. So what are your thoughts when it comes to the recent downturn in ratings for NXT? Do you think that's just par for the course? Do you think that's because less main roster stars? What are your thoughts about it? Let me know your thoughts and theories behind that one. AEW Collision, of course, is this coming Saturday, and more matches have been announced and confirmed for the show. AEW announced 3 new bouts for Saturday's show during Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, including a women's division contest between Willow Nightingale and Mercedes Martinez. Penta El Zero and Commander will face Matt Menard and Angelo Parker in a tag team bout. Wardlow versus Willie Mack in singles competition has also been announced for Saturday's show, which was taped Tuesday night in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We spoke about the Continental Classic Blue League matches that are set for the show. In addition to that, we've also got Kenny Omega facing off against Ethan Page in a Battle of the Canadians. Of course, the event taking place in Montreal, Canada as well. Speaking of Canada, AEW has announced last night as well a tour coming in March of 2024. AEW has announced 8 dates for their Canada Tour 2024. As revealed during Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, AEW will return to the north of the border next year for 8 events, including 5 combined Dynamite/Rampage tapings, as well as 3 Collision dates. The Canada Tour 2024 kicks off Saturday, March 16 with a Collision event at the Canadian Tire Centre in Ottawa, Ontario. It continues in Ontario on Wednesday, March 20 with a Dynamite Rampage show in Toronto, Ontario at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. Wednesday, March 27 we'll see the tour hit Quebec City, Quebec at the Centra Videotron for another Dynamite Rampage taping, while Saturday, March 30, the company will be in London, Ontario at the Budweiser Gardens for Collision. Wednesday, April 10, AEW will be in Winnipeg, Manitoba at the Canada Life Centre for a Dynamite and Rampage taping. The company then hits Edmonton, Alberta on Wednesday, May 8 for another Dynamite and Rampage taping at Rogers Place. Saturday, May 11, they will be in Vancouver, British Columbia for Collision at Rogers Arena. The Canada Tour 2024 will wrap on Wednesday, July 10 at the Scotiabank Saddledome in Calgary, Alberta for Dynamite and Rampage. Tickets for the tour go on sale Friday, December 15. But there you go, guys. That's the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.